Hi, and welcome back to All Scale Slot Cars. I'm Dennis, if you're new to the channel. And I have to tell you, I have been so looking forward to this series that I'm going to start right here and now. This is featuring Aurora AFX cars from the 70s and early 80s, things that I grew up with, that I have loved my entire life, and I owe my existence in slot cars to the existence of the Aurora AFX cars. And I have been putting this off for a long time, and now is the time to finally get to this series. I want to feature these cars. They deserve their moment in the spotlight. They're 50, some going close to 60 years old now. And who knows when people are going to be watching this in the future. So these are very vintage items, but they're still a lot of fun, a lifetime of enjoyment for me and for, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people around the world. And I want to give them their moment in the sun because of what they've done for me. And so this is going to be a new series. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I just finished doing the Matchbox series, from the 50s through 1969. And I had a ball doing that, featuring every single Matchbox car. And a couple of years back, I did all of the Aurora Thunderjets. And I did all that. I featured all that in one video, and it took me over an hour, I think. So I think I've learned that to break it down a little bit. So I'm going to just kind of focus on a few cars per episode. This is the first episode, and this is an introductory episode. So more or less my story of how I got involved in this, and I really want to share that with you. And I want to play a little game here. I've put out some cars, and I just want to test your knowledge of AFX, of Aurora AFX. And I put out some cars. So we'll play a little game. You don't have to play if you don't want to. I'd like for you, if you'd like to participate, I'm going to hold up cars out of this section here, this vast section of beautiful cars. And I want you to tell me what you think, how many you think are original Aurora AFX cars. And this way, going forward, you can see your progress, because we're going to discuss all of the Aurora cars, and you'll be able to differentiate any other cars that are knockoffs or tribute cars or custom cars from the original Aurora AFX. I'd like to give you tips and tricks on how to spot them, so you'll be an expert. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm a collector. I've learned a lot about these over the years, but I'm not an expert. So I also need the community's help. If you see something as we go through these cars, say something. Leave it in the comments, and I'll correct anything I've said wrong. If I say that a certain car doesn't exist, but you know it does, let me know in the comments, and I'll put that in the description. So anybody watching this video, look in the description below, and you'll be able to see any adjustments that have been made to my original video. And I'm sure there'll be a few. Like I said, I'm not an expert. So just to start, just to gauge where you're at, just tell me, just get a tally, just get a piece of paper and a pen, and just put a tally mark whenever you see. I'm going to hold up a car one at a time, and you tell me, is this an original Aurora AFX? If it is, get your tally and just do one. You don't have to tell me it's this specific car. Just tally one. Okay? And I'll tell you my story as we're featuring these cars. Oh, I gave away something there. I shouldn't turn it over. Okay, that was a freebie. All right, so here we go. As if you know me, you know I got my start in the early 70s when my parents got me my first AFX set. It was either for Christmas or my birthday. I'm not sure which one, but they're only like 2 weeks apart. So it could have been either or. So we'll just say it was, I think it was 73 or 74. I can't even remember the year. But Yeah, that's when I got my first AFX slot car set. First dive into uh, any kind of slot cars. I had no knowledge of it before then, and that just took me by storm. And it never left me, even if work and life got in the way in my middle years. It never left me. It was always with me inside. And now that I'm retired, I have the time, thankfully, um, to dedicate to this, and I'm having a ball. I'm absolutely loving it, and I like to share as much knowledge as possible. And again, I say I'm not an expert, but I will pass along anything I've learned along the way, and to help out fellow slot car enthusiasts any way I can. And yeah, so ever since then, in the 70s, I had a ball. Um, I had friends that would come over and race, and we would just love it. And I used to live in New York, and I moved down to Florida, and I quickly made a friend, and he was also into slot cars. So we would go to the store and spend all the free all the money we had to spend was spent on slot cars. You know, anything paper delivery, any money we made all went into slot cars. And we would go to the store. We would ride our bikes to a store on every Saturday morning. And ironically, it was called Hobby Lobby. Not the hobby that you know of, Hobby Lobby, but this was a small mom and pop store, and we would ride our bikes there. It was about maybe a 10 or 15-minute bike ride, and we would always just drool at the collection of AFX cars they had in those big long cases, and they had them. The cars were in their boxes, you know. It was just so beautiful to see them sitting royally on their boxes. And we would just, you know, we could only afford to pick out one or two every time we went, but you know, that added up after a while. And the cars back then were certainly not as expensive as they were now. And so I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that and to accumulate a lot of these AFX cars before it's really outrageous. And I actually think these cars are going to go up in value as we go. Some cars are like over $1,000 they're going for. Some cars, even though you know they're very common, they still command at least $20, $30 at the very least, and that's the most commonest cars there. But like I said, some are over 1,000, and there's many in between. Plenty go over 100, 200, 300 regularly, and I think it's only going to go up because a lot of people who grew up with these, such as myself, are now at that retirement age, and they're looking for hobbies, and they're all coming in. I could see it. I see it online. I see it on YouTube, on the presence of people that are coming into this hobby. A lot of them are coming in for the first time. A lot of them are younger people who, you know, their fathers introduced it to them when they were younger, say in the 70s or 80s or 90s, like my son. And so now they're coming into it, and they're in their 40s or so, and they're loving it. And so they're getting involved in the hobby, but many, many more people are coming back to it, I believe, who are now turning 60 through 65, retiring, looking for that hobby, that special thing to do. And what better hobby as slot cars? And these cars, thankfully, they made millions of these things to where they're still available, and they're readily available in a lot of the cases. So if you're looking to start a collection, what better way than to just jump right into it? And I'm going to help guide you here to start your collection if you're so inclined. And you can decide for yourself how deep of a collector you want to be. Do you want to get like as I did with the Aurora Thunderjets? There were many different models, but I wanted just one mold of, you know, it didn't have to be every single color. It just one mold. I just wanted one Stingray, and if I found a good deal on a blue Stingray, then that's fine. I didn't need a red Stingray and a green Stingray and all that, and that's fine if you collect all that. That was my experience with the Thunderjets, which I absolutely love. But I didn't grow up with them, so they weren't as special as these. Now, the Aurora AFX has many different liveries, different patterns on their cars that the Thunderjets didn't have. They were basically, for the most part, they were solid colors. Where it started in the 70s, they started branching out and getting all these different liveries, race liveries on cars. They never really had much of a license on things, so they improvised a lot, but what they did improvise was beautiful stuff. And so, yeah, so getting back to my friend and I would ride our bike to the Hobby Lobby, and there would be, I think it was a couple of Jewish couples, or at least one Jewish couple would be there all the time. And they would always say, I would always remember hearing, "Javi, it's the boys are here," because we came without fail every Saturday morning, and they knew we were going to buy a car or two from them each and really enjoy going home with those cars and playing with them for the rest of the week and adding them to the stables. We each had our own stables that just grew and grew. And eventually, I think they went out of business. And, oh no, it could have been around the same time. We discovered that, I think it was a Toys R Us, could have been a Lionel Playworld, but I think it was Toys R Us that was selling Aurora AFX cars, like blowout sales. They had them for, I think, 99 cents each, and they had like a long plastic tube that would stretch all the way across the toy aisle and just all along, and there were the Aurora AFX cars all in there, and we would be like, oh my gosh, just pick out whatever you don't have. It's like 99 cents each. Maybe it was $1.99 or maybe somewhere in between. But we picked out our cars and just enjoyed that and rode home. Now getting to that store was a real pain. It took about half an hour to 45 minutes to ride our bikes there, and then ride back another half hour, 45 minutes. And sometimes after a while, we bought up all the cars that were there, and they never really refreshed any cars. So that became the end of that. But we got a great deal of cars from that. And that's my experience. I had so much fun with them, enjoyed them. And then when my son came along, he was born in early 90, and when he became of age to finally have some fun, and I broke out the slot cars, I discovered that the Aurora AFX cars that I had, the tires had all gone bad. They had gotten hard, and it was hard to race them on the track. They were, given a big problem. And in a way, that kind of was a blessing, because that saved them from me playing with them too hard. Now, when I played with them back in the 70s, my dad had made a table on horses in a spare room for us. And but we never had any issues with cars hitting the floor or anything like that. And when I would go to my friend's house, we would set up a track on his floor. So we never really had the cars treated, we never treated them too badly. And after a while, we just got so many cars that, and with the sale that they had at Toys R Us, I think it was, I had gotten a whole bunch of Chevelles because I loved Chevelles, and they had them all on this blowout sale. So I got a whole bunch of Chevelles, and I painted them the NASCAR colors of the day, and he painted his. He used to love the Roadrunners and the Dodge Chargers, and so we had a blast, and we would use those cars. So we actually inadvertently saved the lives of the Aurora AFX cars that we did have. And so with that really was a blessing. So a lot of my cars are still in great shape. In this series, I'm going to discuss each model, each mold has its own particular vulnerability, and most of them are in the, I could just say across the board, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. In this A pillar here, that's the first thing to check for if you're checking for damage, because that's the first thing to go. That's usually a crush injury, sometimes from storage, sometimes from landing upside down on the floor after a big fall, sometimes from deslotting and smacking into the wall. Sometimes you just stepped on it, they just got stepped on, and that's what happened in a lot of cases. That goes across the board, so I'm not going to keep mentioning that in every single car. But I will say specifically when we get to different molds of cars and different makes of cars, what those specific problems are that you have to look for when you're buying a car, not just to spot if something is a reproduction or not. Yeah, so that was my story. My son was 4 years old, I think, when I first brought these out to him, and he had a ball with them. But discovering that the tires were hard, that was another blessing. So I put those AFX cars away, never really to be used much again, other than to just driven around the track casually, just to take them for a stroll, but only on certain models because the tires were hard on most of them by that point. So at that point, I went out and I got him some Tyco cars and some Lifelike cars that were available in the local hobby store. There was no internet yet at that point, so where I can just easily buy more, or I didn't even know how to get replacement tires at the time. I had nowhere to find them, so I thought that was the end of Aurora being on my track. So that was a blessing. So, but in the meantime, I got into Tyco and Lifelike, and those those series will be coming up shortly, so don't you worry. But right now, we're going to feature and look at the Aurora AFX, and I'm almost done getting through this here, and this is the last one. And if you've been tallying and playing along, let me know what your numbers are. What number did you come up with on how many of those are original Aurora AFX? All right, I hear 17. Okay, I hear 5. I hear 11. I hear 2. All right, the actual number of those cars that I just showed you that are actual Aurora AFX are, drum roll please, 0. 0. None of them. None of these cars are original Aurora AFX. They're all some sort of other company's cars, mainly Auto World, Plain Mantis, reproductions, just you name it, and Tomy, you name it, and other companies have copied and made their own tributes to Aurora AFX. So the number is 0. And if you said anything other than 0, I could tell you right now, the series on these Aurora AFX is going to help you, because we're going to help you identify each and every car. There were at least 90 unique molds, 90 unique cars that the Aurora AFX line made, and probably about, I think I counted about 430 something different designs. When you add up all the designs on each of the molds, just adding them all up, there's at least 430 of them. So depending on how deeply you want to collect, you can just collect any way you like. There's no wrong way to collect it. You can collect, like I did with the Aurora Thunderjets, you can collect one of every different mold. You know, you can have one Datsun, one Firebird, you know, or you can try to get one of the basic colors or designs or liveries or however you want to call it for each that came out. And that would require, instead of 90 something, it would be 430 something if I add it up right. But you could take that even further, because Aurora AFX is notorious for having just minor variations back then. there were some very minor variations, and that's what we want to discuss most in this series, is for the people who want to do and go through those minor variations. And if I had to guess, I would say there are probably over 1,000 different variations. When you count up all the cars and all the different liveries and paint schemes, there's at least 1,000 different minor variations in total. And some people collect them all. There's some people who have a collection of everything. And it's fascinating, but you could take it as far as you want. I like to get a good indication of a variation across the board. And my collection is a collection in progress. Even though I've been at it for decades, it's still a collection in progress that, you know, I'm never going to stop. There's always another variation that I could say, oh, I don't have that one. I think I might want to pick that one up. So I don't know when I'm going to stop. At some point I probably will, but it's so much fun, so enjoyable, and you can have so much fun with this too. So enjoyable. And yeah, so you could determine right away, watch this series of videos. I'm going to get started right now in the first couple of cars, and since I've talked so long in this initial video, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but in subsequent videos we'll dive deeper into all of these cars. But I'm going to explain every variation and everything you'll need to know about it. And I'd like to really have this be a comprehensive list of all of the Aurora AFX. So like I said, I'm not an expert, so correct me if I'm wrong. Add to the discussion if you like. Just leave a comment and I'll add that to the description. So if you're reading or watching this in the future, you can read through the comments or look in the description. Everything should be added there. So and before I start, we're going to start with my favorite car, my first car ever that was in that set. There were two cars that came in that set, and the first one that I fell in love with right away is this Ferrari 512M. And this is how we're going to start this series. And I just want to tell you, I'm going to discuss all the different chassis and stuff, but I'm not going to go deep into the chassis. We're just going to briefly touch on what the chassis were and move on from there. This is more so for the bodies. Back when I was a kid, a lot of my chassis got screwed up with, I would change them around. You know how you are when you're a kid. You want to get your fastest car, fastest chassis onto your favorite body. And that's what I did in a lot of cases. So everything got swapped around. We, had parts bins that we just put things together and tried to make them run. And then if we had spare bodies, we would put that on a body. So everything is messed up. So don't look at the rear, the wheels, the rims, or anything like that, because in most cases, they're not the correct as is. I'm trying to actually get everything back in order and to the original way that they should be. And that's going to be a long time process, but for now, and then I'll also clean up the chassis, and so just don't judge me by that. For now, I just want to discuss the bodies and how they came in, and this is the Ferrari 512M. And so being that there were so many variations, I want to just tell you, let's talk with the Ferrari 512M first. This car was made from 1972 to 1978, and the parts numbers, in case you're trying to look these up, if you're interested, if you want an Aurora AFX 512M, it came on different kinds of chassis. The numbers, the part numbers that AFX used were nonsensical to me. So they're all over the place, but I'm going to just tell you those numbers. If it was on the original AFX chassis, that was, do I have one here? Let's see. Let's see. I'm sorry. I do not have one. Oh, here. Okay. Here's an original AFX chassis. Might have reproduction or aftermarket on there, but you could see where it says AFX. That was the original chassis. Nowadays, these are called non-mags, non-magnetic chassis, and but at the time they were just AFX. If you have a chassis, they started coming out with these in 1970, and the early chassis actually have 1970 stamped on there, right under the AFX, and also in 1971 they have a 1971, and I believe in 1972 they started doing away with that. And you see some with like a line, a solid line under there. I think those are the 1972 chassis that they just wiped off there. So if you have one of those, they're much desired. So hold on to them if you do see. So check all your chassis, especially these AFX ones. Yeah, so this is what it became as in after those early days of AFX towards the mid 70s, early to mid 70s, they came out with stronger magnets. Again, I'm not going to get deeper into this, but these are called the Magnatraction chassis. And so when this car came out on different chassis, and when it came out as an original Aurora AFX chassis, the part number was 1763. Okay, and then later on they came out on Magnatraction chassis, and the part number is 1905. And then they also came out with a Magnatraction Flamethrower chassis that had the light bulb in it, and those part numbers were different. They were 1974. So you can just research AFX 1763 if you want a Ferrari 512M in the original AFX chassis, and you may be able to find what you're looking for right away there. So, and this is going to apply to every car. So now with this blue model, this was the number 2, and it had come in different ways. It had, you see that air vent, that could be open or closed air vent. The windshield could be dark or clear, and this engine in the back, it could be silver or unpainted. All right, so there's different variations across the board on these number 2 Ferrari 512Ms. Either open air vents, closed air vents, clear windshield, dark windshield, silver engine, or unpainted engine. And in addition to being the Magnatraction, non-Magnatraction, or Flamethrower. So there's, as you can see, there are plenty of variations. So it's up to you to determine, do you want just one representation of a blue and white Ferrari 512M? And you could say, I'm done, I have it. Or you can go further, and we'll see. Next is this Ferrari 512M, and it's in beautiful red and white. Now this one has an open air vent and a clear windshield. As you could see, the difference between the dark and the clear windshield. And this also has a silver painted engine. All right, and again, it had all different forms of variations on this number 2 Ferrari 512M, this red one. Next is the white version of the number 2 Ferrari 512M. And as you can see here, that's got a closed air vent. Remember, the other two had the open air vent, and this one's got a closed air vent. And it has a dark windshield and also a painted, silver painted engine. All right, so, and that came in all the different variations of windshield shade and everything. And next up, we have another white one. And where the first one had the closed air vent, this has an open air vent. And it has a dark windshield and a silver painted engine. So as you could see, there's many variations. And if you have white, white tends to be prone to discoloring a little bit. So watch out for that. There's methods that people employ to get that to be white again, and that could be in my future. I might just leave it as is. We'll see. We'll see. I do have a model of white that I enjoy, so I might not take the task of bleaching that out. We'll see. All right, so now we'll go to a different variation of that red and white Ferrari 512M. Instead of the number 2, it's the number 6. And that came with open air vent, dark windshield, silver, and engine there with that black in there. And it also came as an open air vent, clear windshield, and a silver engine, and some different variations like that. If this possibly could have all the variations that the number 2s had, I'm not sure, so please leave a comment if you know if this number 6 in the red, white, and blue ran the gamut of all the different variations, or was it just a difference of clear or dark windshields. So I'd like to know that, just for my own interest, and for everyone else reading along and watching along here. We'd like to have that clarified, and I appreciate it. And then there's also the 6, white and blue, and this had the open air vent, clear windshield, and the silver engine. Okay, I should put these, let me get rid of these cars. And so this way we could put these out so you could see them all in their togetherness. All right. Now, like I said, this is a work in progress. So there are cars that, a collection in progress, I should say. So there are cars that I have yet to collect, still working on, and they may be part of my stable in years to come. We'll see, but always have an open eye for whatever I don't have. Now here's another variation of that blue. It's a dark blue and yellow Sunoco colors. Very, very beautiful car. And this came with an open air vent, dark windshield, and a silver engine. And this is a Flamethrower with the bulb coming through here. And I remember how much fun I had with these cars just at night. It just amazed me. I would just close all the, turn off all the lights in the room and watch the cars go by with their headlights lighting up the wall as they turn the corners. And so much fun these Flamethrowers are. So this one came also with a clear windshield, and as being a non-flamethrower as well. And there may be more variations. Again, if I'm not stating it, then you can correct me on it. Let me know, leave a comment if you know there are more variations from what I am saying. So I'd really like to know. And there are also a couple that I don't have, and where that's a dark blue and yellow, there was a lighter blue and yellow with the same variations that I've just mentioned for that. And also a much more rare car. These you can probably find very easily. If you're just starting your collection, you could probably find these very easily. But there's some cars in the AFX, the Aurora AFX line, that are very, very difficult to find. And when you do, they're very expensive. If you ever get your hands on them, snatch them up and put them under your pillow and keep them for yourself, because they're very highly, highly collectible. And the one Ferrari 512M that I unfortunately do not have in my collection is, instead of the number 2 or 6, it's actually a number 211. And it's got the number 211 right up front here. And it comes in red and yellow. And that one is very rare, and if you come upon it, just go for it. All right, so that's it for the Ferrari 512Ms, my favorite car, my first favorite car, I should say. And the car in the set with it was a Porsche 917K. And that one was, not this one exactly, this is the light blue and orange, the Gulf colors. Came with the open air vent and a clear windshield. And that black painted engine. But the actual car, my very first set with the Ferrari 512, this Porsche 917K, was this number 2, the yellow with the blue stripe, with the open air vent, clear windshield, and black painted engine. Car that I fell in love with. These two original cars from my childhood. Another variation on that, number 2, was with the open air vent, dark windshield, and black painted engine. And you can see the difference in the air vents. And also with these Porsche 917s, the number 2 is a little different in some cases. Some, it's a little thicker and bolder and a little slightly larger of a number 2, just a little different. And collectors go by that. They want to have everything possible and all the different variations within those different sizes of 2s. So it can get really crazy, and it can get as crazy as you want it to be or as sane as you want it to be. Then there's this number 2 in the yellow and blue with the closed air vent and the dark windshield and an unpainted engine. So you could see the difference. So there's 3 variations in that one car by itself. I may be done collecting variations in these cars. Like I said, I'd like to have across the board of just to show different variations on what was out there. And then we get to this white and green, beautiful colors with that green stripe. And this came with the open air vent, clear windshield, and black painted engine. And this also ran the full gamut, the closed air vent and clear windshield. So all these different variations existed on this car as well. And that was another one. And now we get to another beautiful Porsche 917K. This number 2, white with that purple stripe. And that came with the open air vent and the dark windshield and the black painted engine, or it also came with a clear windshield. So that was that. And there was also, just like that red and yellow Ferrari 512M, that 211, there was also a number 2 Porsche 917K. It was white with a light blue stripe, and it had this much larger number 2 on it. Much larger, way out of place with the rest of these. And it had a closed air vent, dark windshield. And that one is very rare. So if you pick up one of those in each, the Ferrari and the Porsche, you'll have quite a thing going for you. So I'm going to stop this video here because I've talked so much. I want to keep these videos to a minimum. I know it's hard. Life gets in the way these days. You don't have time to sit and watch an entire, 10-day long video. So I'm going to break this up into little parts, little segments. We'll go a few cars at a time. And I really thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you come back and check out more of the Aurora AFX cars, because I am just thrilled. This is it for me. This is the epitome of slot cars for me since I can ever remember. And I think it's always going to be like that. Of course, I love all slot cars, but this is something this, like the video implies, the heart of my slot car collection. And I'd love to hear that it's also the heart of yours. So drop me a comment. Let me know your experiences with the Aurora AFX. Is this something that you even knew of? Am I enticing you to start collecting, and I hope I am, because there's so much enjoyment you can get from this. And I really want to thank you for watching. This is All Scale Slot Cars. I'm Dennis, and looking forward to seeing you in episode 2. And this will be in a playlist, so if you're in the future, if you're in the year 2985 or whatever, and you're watching these videos, it'll be coming up next in the playlist. But if you're in the present, I'll try to get to part 2 as soon as possible. We'll run through a few more cars, and we'll see you then. And thank you for coming by, and have a great day.